Hello, I'm Augusta West, Director of Educational Programs at the Apalachicola Maritime Museum. Today, I'm on board the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers snag boat, the General Irwin, and we're going to be talking with Captain Sam Hill about snagging on the Apalachicola River and a revolutionary new technique for snagging that he's developed.
Welcome aboard the General Irwin. This boat's a 3-year-old towboat built for the Army Corps of Engineers in Bayou La Batterie. 60 feet long, 24 feet wide. Almost 800 horsepower, and our job is to push this barge with this excavator on it, and we sometimes have a crane on a lattice boom crane, and we do maintenance and construction projects in the Army Corps of Engineers projects, which is the ACF waterway, the locks, the dams. We can do some dredging, channel maintenance. In this case, we're doing snagging. So I'll give you a tour of the boat real quick. We're currently in the pilot house. This is my office as the captain, and this is where the boat is controlled and steered, and these are propulsion control and steering controls for both the main rudders and the flanking rudders, which are in front of the propellers. These are navigation systems and radios, and you can even pull the whistle. And so we have monitoring and control of all the systems. Everything is consolidated on a program. Okay, so this is the engine room. Here we have our generator. We have one generator here. We also have one on the barge that we can plug into. And down below here is the main heart of the boat, and multiple systems, hydraulic systems for steering, and pneumatic systems for valve control. And these are all this is all Caterpillar diesel engines. These are C12 turbocharged, 385 horsepower each, and go through a 5-to-1 reduction to 4-foot stainless steel propellers made by Rolls-Royce. So this machine is an excavator with a special long reach boom and a shear that we're using for snagging activities. This has been specially designed for this particular task, and this is a new way to do the snagging, so this is a whole new machine for us. So I'll take you, it's a Komatsu PC290 long reach, and this is a shear made by La Bounty. And the jaws are 20 inches wide and 18 inches deep, and they're really made for cutting steel. So cutting wood is not even an issue for it. It cuts through it like butter. It could cut through an anvil, so cutting through the trees is no problem. I think eventually we're going to get even bigger hooks so we could get a larger tree to cut. But right now these are made for cutting steel. And this is the control cab, and we operate right off the front of the barge, and we cut those snags down. So here's our galley, and this is where this is the captain's stateroom, my room, and here's the head bathroom, and here's the galley. That's where I make my espressos. Well, I'm Sam Hill. I'm 5th generation Florida cracker from Southwest Florida. Grew up on Sanibel in a family of commercial fishermen, and we had cattle and did a couple other odds and ends. And that was, I knew right then that I was going to be on the water in Florida and around the waters of Florida for the rest of my life. That was what I wanted to do. I've been on the Apalachicola, Chattahoochee, Flint River system for 9 years. I was in the Coast Guard for 21 years, and I retired from that. My last job was the officer in charge of Eufaula, the AIDS navigation team in Eufaula, Alabama. And that's when I really got to know the river and knew that that's where I was going to work for a while. And when I retired from the Coast Guard in 2009, I started working with the Corps of Engineers right away as the captain of this boat. And we do the maintenance and construction projects to all the government property on the system. The river hasn't been maintained. There's been no appreciable improvement to the channel in 13 years. And I've watched 9 years of that. And I've seen it get much, much worse. And I see more boats having problems, and more commercial interest in the river for transportation turn away because it's just too risky. And I see businesses getting hurt, and I see people not being hired, and I see the economic effect of that, of our failing infrastructure. And I want to fix that. I think that's something it can be done. Snags are very relevant, and they're very, very difficult to get around. Snags are hazards to navigation, which are woody material from fallen trees that are in the river. Sometimes they're visible, a lot of times they're not. And if a boat hits them, it can really hurt the boat, it can hurt the people in the boat, it can cause environmental damage if there's an oil spill, if there's a fuel spill. It can cause loss of life, and that's, like potholes in the street. We have a responsibility to fix that, and we just need to make sure we're doing it the right way. For over 100 years, the Corps of Engineers has been snagging this river, and snagging it on a consistent basis. Only up until 13 years ago, in 2001, we stopped. And this 13-year pause, there's a lot of wood out there to pick up now, and it's very hazardous. So for 100 years, the Corps of Engineers has been snagging, pulling snags out of there. And what they do is heavy lift equipment, large crews, large boats, and they'll actually take all of the wood that's in the river and get it out of the way. And they do it by lifting it up. And it's very, very heavy. It moves a lot of dirt around, moves sand. It causes bank erosion. It does deal with a snag effectively. It was very effective. But it also had a lot of unintended consequences to the environment. Well, the renewed interest is a result of boating accidents on the river, and there's been quite a few. And there's also a renewed interest in getting passengers up and down the river, and it cannot be safely done right now, especially after 13 years of deferred maintenance. It's getting worse and worse every year. Snags are very important to the ecology of the river. They provide habitat for all different species levels, from bugs to big fish, and from hiding from predators, places to live, places to hide, get out of the current to spawn. And it's important that we don't remove it. It's important that we only remove what's necessary to get a boat through and safely, and leave the rest, and what's cut, drop that too. We really don't remove anything. We only rearrange it a little bit, and it doesn't really have. I don't think that the method we're using now has any really negative effect to the ecology, which is good. So the old way we took snags out. Heavy equipment would do a heavy lift and take an entire tree and move it from one location to another and to get it out of the channel. And what we do now, this new approach, we come in more surgically and just snip and drop what's necessary. And we detect it visually. We detect it with a side imaging sonar, which is new technology, and we feel around. And when we see something that's a hazard, we just cut it and drop it, and it's got a great effect. So I was up in North Alabama after the spring 2011 tornadoes went through, and we were managing some contractors that were doing some debris cleanup. And I saw this oak tree stump that was as big as a car come in on an 18-wheeler. And this excavator came, a contractor with an excavator came and chipped away with this stump shear. And in about 20 minutes he had this stump that was the size of a car down to toothpicks. And I thought, gosh, you know, if I had that excavator on the front of my barge when I'm in that river, I could take care of all those snags so easily, so quickly, with a small crew, very inexpensively, very quickly, very effectively, and completely, and move on through. And that's the tool we need. So I approached my chain of command with that, and they thought it was an innovative idea worth trying, and I got good support, and so now we've rented this equipment as a prototype, and it's working very well. So far we've removed 30 snag areas, probably over 200 trees that have been whittled down to a manageable size where we can easily get through now. There's a lot more to do. There's years of work to do, and it'll take a while to get it right, but we're moving in the right direction, and I think we'll eventually buy equipment like this. There's a lot of advantages to this new technique. So far it's proven to be very cost effective. This is very inexpensive. My whole trip down I burned less than $300 worth of, or 300 gallons of diesel fuel. The rental equipment is around $700 a day, and there's just three of us, a crew of three of us, myself and a chief engineer and a deckhand, and we all get the job done. It's very cost effective. That compares to the money that was spent on the Montgomery or with the contractors that did it last. There were a crew of 25 people, and several boats and several super heavy equipment that could actually lift a 60-ton tree out of the water clear and get it out of the way. That's a lot of very heavy equipment, a lot of people to feed and to house in the remote area. It's very difficult, and those folks don't come cheap. You got to pay them good money. It's a lot safer because of the there's no hoisting. There's no heavy overhead lifting, which requires a whole new level of OSHA standards. This is just reach down and cut. And the hydraulic fluid that we use is a synthetic glycol base, which is completely biodegradable, doesn't leave a sheen. If there was a spill, and we don't spill any, if there was a spill, it's completely biodegradable and doesn't leave a sheen and doesn't hurt the environment at all. It's super green hydraulic fluid. I can only guess how it's going to go, but I would say that this is such a success so far that this is going to be the new practice. This is going to be the new standard. This is what we'll go to nationwide, and this is where it's starting, and this is going to go everywhere. This is a good way to get rid of snags. Now we do dredging. We've been dredging. We dredged the Flint over the winter and the spring, and that helped. The last tow that went to Stewart Machine in Bainbridge came through at the very beginning of May, and they got through there because of that dredging. They got through without mishap, which was good. Without that dredging, they could not have gotten through. and that was a multi-million-dollar transit that some gates that were going to Pittsburgh, so it was very important that got through. And the snagging has been ongoing up there. It's in much better shape than the Apalachicola, which hasn't been snagged in 13 years. I don't think snags have anything to do with the flow. The flow has to do with, in any one place, you'll have a flow velocity, and that has to do with the amount of water coming through and the slope. And those two factors determine how fast it is. If there's wood debris there, it may act like a rudder and steer it one way, steer it toward the bank or away from the bank or parallel to the bank, but it doesn't slow it down. It really doesn't. So what I'm doing to that, with the snags, isn't going to have any effect on flow. Georgia and Alabama are involved with our dredging operations. Of course, they have an economic interest in ensuring that that portion of the transportation system stays open. We have the rail system, we have the highway system, and we have the water system, and those three things are critical. Especially most of our area doesn't have a interstate highway coming through, so it's the waterway is critical to the industry on the water. And there's a lot of industries that have been wanting navigation in Georgia and Alabama that want the waterway to be more available. A lot of folks don't understand how the waterway is cared for. The highway systems, Florida Department of Transportation takes care of most of the highways and the streets, and you know who your highway department is, but you don't really understand who takes care of the river. The Army Corps of Engineers is in charge of maintaining this waterway, and the Coast Guard is in charge of marking it. So we pave the road and they paint the lines. That's basically how that works. And we've left some pretty good potholes in the last 13 years, and it's important that we fill those potholes in. And it's gotten so bad the Coast Guard can't even paint lines well anymore, and that's our fault. So that's something we need to get back on. And if your roads deteriorate, your economy is not too far behind that. And if you want things to grow, you've got to have good infrastructure, and this is a critical part. I know personally know several businesses in Florida and Alabama and Georgia that would love to have this waterway open and would benefit economically and would hire more people if the waterway had a seasonal availability. Even in a seasonal availability, if we could say 6 months of the year we can have barge traffic, that would be helpful.
We'd like to thank Captain Hill for joining us today, and thank you for watching. For more information about the Apalachicola Maritime Museum, please visit our website at www.ammfl.org, and please be sure to subscribe to our newsletter to stay in touch.